of all, allow me to thank you once again for this distinguished platform. Today, I would like to speak about the Israeli-Turkish relations. As we all have witnessed, the Turkish foreign policy nowadays is experiencing a very important U-turn. And in my opinion, this U-turn was not solely based on Turkey's foreign policy vis-a-vis the state of Israel, but I think this is something, a part of a bigger foreign policy, a part of a bigger decision. And in my opinion, the most important milestone here was the United Arab Emirates leader, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan's visit to Ankara in November last year. In that particular meeting, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed declared that he is willing to invest in Turkey with an investment of $10 billion. Given the devaluation of the Turkish lira, given the high inflation and the high unemployment rates in Turkey, Turkey is gravely in a need to receive such an investment. And as a result, as far as I understand, Mohammed bin Zayed asked Turkey to make necessary changes in the Turkish foreign policy and make the Turkish foreign policy compatible with the needs of the Abraham Accords Axis countries. And of course, if we are speaking about this Abraham Accords Axis countries, Israel is considered as an inseparable part of this pact. And as a result, we began to see a new rapprochement policy that was adopted by Ankara. First, we began to see positive signals from Ankara to Jerusalem. And at the same time, we began to see the same similar signals from Ankara to Cairo. I also would like to remind you that the Erdogan administration conducted constant delegitimization attacks against Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's government in Egypt because of the fact that he came to power by conducting a military coup in Egypt. So Erdogan saw himself as his natural opponent, since he is also affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood movement. So long story short, when we are looking at this bigger picture, we understand that Turkey is trying to put an end to its own isolation that it is imposed by its own self in the Eastern Mediterranean. When we are looking at the map, we're gonna see that Turkey and Greece have chronic problems because of the Aegean continental shelf issues, because of the Cyprus question. Of course, Turkey does not recognize the Republic of Cyprus since 1974. This is a huge problem as well. But when we are also looking at the other countries, we see that Turkey has no proper relations with Syria's Bashar al-Assad, with Israel, with Egypt. So Turkey is in its own imposed precious loneliness, as they call it in Turkish, değerli yalnızlık. The thing is, nowadays, Turkish administration internalized the new fact on the ground that this precious loneliness is not making an input for the immediate interests of the Turkish national national interests. And as a result, they began to make some fine tunings, and that is where we are seeing that Turkey is making a rapprochement towards Israel, but at the same time to Egypt, and if it's not enough, also to Saudi Arabia. And we are seeing that Turkey, with this charm offensive, is trying to mend her fences with all actors in the region. But when we are speaking about Israel, unlike the past, for the first time, Israel's hand is stronger. And unlike the past, now it is Turkey who is trying to mend the fences. When we are looking at the history of the bilateral relations, we always saw that Turkey dictated the quality of the relations. When they wanted to upgrade the relations, so they upgraded the relations to ambassadorial level, and when they wanted to downgrade it because of the friction between the Palestinians and the Israelis, so they chose to downgrade it. But for the first time, now, when they are willing to upgrade the relations back to the ambassadorial level, now Israel has its own conditions, because for the first time, Israel does not feel alone, lonely, isolated in the region. Thanks to the Abraham Accords, now Israel is surrounded with allies, with new friends, and these relations are genuine. We understand that it's not only among the decision makers, but when the Israeli tourists, for instance, are visiting United Arab Emirates, they are mostly welcomed by the Emiratis, for instance. And that is why I think the Abraham Accords proved itself. Recently, we all saw that Israel hosted a forum called the Negev Forum in Israel, where we hosted Moroccan foreign minister, Bahraini foreign minister, and Emiratis. They came here, United States. So this is the picture of the new Middle East. So accordingly, I think Turkey is willing to take part in the next year's Negev summit. And in order to become a member of this Abraham Accords axis, they have to mend their fences not only with Jerusalem, but also with Cairo, also with Riyadh. So that is why we are seeing this huge change in the Turkish foreign policy. However, as I already mentioned, Israel, unlike the past, is not willing to hug Turkey at any price. Now, according to Israeli decision makers, Turkey is still hosting Hamas's terrorists in Turkey. We have terror cells there, and for the first time ever, now Israel is coming to the table with conditions. And unless these conditions are met, I do not see a very good reason to upgrade the relations back to the ambassadorial level. The reason for that is, for the Israeli side, in Israeli eyes, upgrading the relations back to the ambassadorial level is constituting the only leverage and only sanction mechanism that Jerusalem can implement against Ankara. And let's say that if we will nominate our new ambassador to Ankara before the Turks will depart the Hamas terrorists, so we will not have any tangible mechanism to persuade the Turks to carry out this action. Okay, so this is very crucial. So for the Israeli side, it's very important that, first of all, we have to see that Hamas's elements will be dismantled in Turkey. They will exiled to a third country. And then, of course, we are willing to nominate our ambassador back to Ankara. In Israeli eyes, Israel has no interest to turn Turkey into an opponent. Israel has no interest to turn Turkey into an enemy. Unfortunately, we had enough enemies in the Middle East, and we do not want an additional one like Turkey. Turkey is a NATO country. Turkey is a part of the West. And nowadays, we are also witnessing that we are having a war in Ukraine. And in my opinion, this is a very great opportunity also for Turkey to mend her fences with the United States and the Western camp at large. And seeing Israel as the branch of the United States in the Middle East, that is why, again, it's very important for Turkey to conduct such a rapprochement, not only with the United States, but also with Israel. And if you would like to see a very important evidence for that, during this month, the Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu will going to conduct a an official visit, first to the United States and then a week later to Israel to discuss, to upgrade the relations back to the ambassadorial level. And he will be accompanied with his Turkish energy minister, meaning that the Turks are willing to upgrade their relations, not only diplomatically, but they would also like to launch some new regional projects. And they are basically saying this out loud, that they are willing to have the Israeli natural gas pipeline. They wanted to host this pipeline, and via Turkey, they would like to export it to Europe. And we all know that Turkey has a policy of functioning as an energy hub in the Middle East. It's trying to host all of the pipelines that are coming from Caucasia, from Iran, from Iraq, and they also would like to add Israel, and they would like to basically make an interdependency between the countries. But in this regard, of course, Turkey's hands will be stronger because they will be the one who will sit at the end of the tap. That is, for instance, if Israel would like to pump the natural gas to Europe, Turkey has to approve these pumping, and then the natural gas can be transported to the European markets. So in this regard, if we want such a project, if we want to realize this project, so first of all, we should have mutual trust between Jerusalem and Ankara. And in order to have mutual trust, in my opinion, we have to see months or maybe years of no crisis between the two countries. Of course, there might be some disagreements, but these disagreements should not be discussed publicly. That is why we have foreign ministers. That is why we have, private phone calls and, of course, summits. And during the last Temple Mount crisis, we all witnessed that President Erdogan chose to call President Herzog and emphasized his sensitivity regarding the violence that was erupted in the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And I think this is the way it should be. But when we are speaking about the Eastern Mediterranean and these kind of grandiose projects, of course, we cannot ignore the sovereign rights of Republic of Cyprus and Greece. During the last decade, ironically, Turkey became the sole architect of the trilateral alliance between Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. And in the background, we also had another important actor, Egypt. So we have a very prosperous cooperation, a strategic alliance that we are seeing collaboration between the security establishments of the three countries. So it must be clear that also for the Greeks and the Cypriots, that Israel is not willing to sacrifice its strategic relations with Greece and Cyprus for a fragile normalization with Turkey. But at the same time, the Greeks and the Cypriots should also understand that we are willing to have proper relations with Turkey, because we did not sign a peace treaty with Turkey to have proper relations with this country, unlike we did with United Arab Emirates, Morocco, and other countries. We never declared hostilities to Turkey. Turkey never declared a war against us. So it's not an Israeli interest to turn this country into an enemy. But at the same time, we are trying to say to Turkey that, yes, we would like to make joint projects together with you. We would like to have proper relations with you. We do not want to experience any diplomatic crisis with you. But at the same time, we have some other partners in the region called the Republic of Cyprus and Greece, that these two countries are respected countries, and they are the members of the European Union. And of course, we are seeing a huge input of Greece and Cyprus into the Israeli foreign policy, because as I already mentioned that these two countries are in European Union, and these two countries are strengthening the hands of the state of Israel inside the European Union. So this is a huge plus for us. Therefore, I think what we should do is something out of the box. What I mean by that? Today, when we are speaking about the Abraham Accords, we all agree that if we have spoken about Abraham Accords like 5 years ago, and even let's say 10 years ago, everyone would accuse us of being a lunatic, and everyone would tag us for being unrealistic. But today, what was a science fiction then is today's Middle East's reality. So what is today is maybe considered as a science fiction, maybe tomorrow's reality and fact on the ground. So what am I trying to say is, yes, Greece, Cyprus, and Turkey have very very important disagreements. We have very important problems that are stemmed from the sovereignty issues. But we also have this new war in Ukraine. And if the European Union would like to minimize its dependency on Russia, so we should, as the partners of the Western world, we have to transfer the Israeli and the Cypriot natural gas to Europe now, not after 20 years, not after 50 years. And we also have to enjoy from this bounty that we have found here in the region. But we should also internalize the fact that we cannot going to implement this project without Turkey. And Turks should also internalize that we cannot implement this policy and this project without Cyprus and Greece. I know that it sounds very interesting and maybe very idealistic and altruistic, etc. But as I told you, what we have spoken about the Abraham Accords that was once considered a science fiction in the region, today's reality. So in my opinion, we have to understand that the real problem here is stemming from the sovereignty claims of the states. That is why I think the most functional solution can be issuing joint licenses to international companies without getting lost inside these sovereignty issues. What I mean is Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, and Israel should issue joint licenses to the international companies without going into the sovereignty issues, and to have this natural gas and to basically to export it to Europe. And this will also strengthen Europe's hands. This will also, we will also eliminate the natural gas issue in the Cyprus question. It will not constitute a headache anymore, but it will be the first step for a cooperation between the Turkish side and the Greek side at the same time. And also for Israel, it will be a win-win situation that, it will be also able to export its own gas to Europe. And also Europe will be giving securities to Israel, so that Turkey may not use this interdependency between Israel and Turkey in favor of the Palestinians in the future, because this is a huge concern for us, that Turkey may close the taps to punish Israel in the future in case of again a full-scale war between the two sides. So I know that many people will disagree with me, but I'm solely focusing on the results. And I want this natural gas out, and I want to use this natural gas. So what I learned from Abraham Accords, to think out of the box, to be creative as much as I can. So this is the advice that I can give to other decision makers in our region. We have to be creative. We have to skip, if we can, the most important disagreements to achieve our goals. And that is why I think uh, the cooperation between the nations would be the main key for a regional prosperity.